Welcome to Smalltalk Daily for Monday, November 16th, 2009. This morning I'd like to go through how easy it is to get two Smalltalk images communicating, and to do that we're first going to show what you have to load. So let's go to the Parcel Manager, and in here you go down to Distributed Computing, and I've already loaded this into this image, Opentalk ST, but you would right click and load, and I've done that here and in a remote image I've got running on another Mac in my office. So to get started, what I need to do is I need to have done this on both systems. I've got it running on 9500 on the other system, and I'm going to run a broker on 9501 here. So I'm going to do this, and then what we're going to do is take a look at the broker and see what that is. And you see that it's an instance of a broker, and it's telling me what IP address, and that's my local LAN, and what port it's running on. So I'm going to close that. Now that it's running, I can ping the remote one over there on goofy.local on 9500 and see if that's there. So I'm going to do that, and we're just going to print the result. And that says true. So that tells me the remote broker is there, it's running, I can communicate with it. Now over on the server I've done this. I've set up a collection, and I've told the broker over there to export the collection under this object ID, server collection. So what I can do here on my local one is tell it I want to get a remote collection by doing an object reference on that host name, on that port, and by that ID. So I'm going to do that. So let's do it. And now let's take a look at the remote collection and see what that looks like. And you'll see that what it is, it's an object reference. Let's move that up, I missed. So I've got, this is an object reference over on the remote server, the access point, and the object ID, just like we expect. And now I can send it messages. Now this looks a little sloppy, but we're going to do a remote answer gets broker send message selector first to the collection, see what we get. So let's do it, and then we'll take a look at the remote answer. And that should be the string first. So what I did is I copied that object across the network from one system to another. Now this is a little simpler. Let's take the remote collection. We'll get remote object to host, port, server ID. So let's do that. And then I can message it fairly simply. So now that I've got that remote object reference, what I can do is I can say, let's try to get remote object 2 just by sending first directly to the remote object. So let's go ahead and do it. And now let's inspect that. It should also be first. And sure enough, it is. So this is a simpler way of communicating with remote objects. If you intend to do something on an ongoing basis, communicating with a remote system, this is probably the way you want to do it, as opposed to this. Now let's go down here and finally take a look at what happens if I send a message that shouldn't exist. So let's do it on that. It's going to tell me Bozo doesn't exist here, so we do a proceed, and sure enough, it attempted to execute on the remote system. It didn't find it there either, and it raised an exception, MNU. So that's pretty basic. Let's go back up here though. I want to take one more look at something remote. I want to look at my broker to show you one thing. Let's go ahead and inspect that. One of the things it's got in here is a little bit of security, open selectors. So there are selectors you can send to it. What you can do is you can set up a system whereby certain selectors are acceptable to send and other selectors are not acceptable. So what you can do is you can narrow down the remote API you're exporting. So if, for instance, I set up an RSS aggregation service on a server and I only wanted it to export a narrow set of APIs, I could do that. So that's really all I wanted to show today, is the basics of communication through Opentalk, and I think we've done that. Until next time, have fun with Smalltalk.